Today we're going to do the large concertina, or what I like to call the glide book. I will be showing you two sizes. This is my mock-up, and this is a student's work. You can see how they changed the size of it. You always have that option to change the size of the handout. Okay, so the glide book, again, this is my mock-up. There's no content in it. You can look at it like a regular book. The pages, I just used the paper I had, are folded in half and sewn on the mountain fold of this small, shallow accordion. But one of the things I like about it is I can open it and glide it open. And that's kind of fun. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages, but the pages, I mean, you could put content here, inside, on the back. You could have a breathing page of some transparent paper if you felt like it, and then more content. Or you could not do anything on the outside and just fill your content in here. The other thing I've seen is people draw content onto the spine, which could be really fun. So that's my mock-up. I used 2-ply museum board for the covers instead of the heavy book board, but you could do that. On the back, you can see my stitching. It is a 5-hole pamphlet stitch with the tail on the outside. Okay, so here's a student's version. They used book cloth where I used paper. What I really like about this book is they place their content on the edge of the page, so when I glide it open, I have something interesting to look at. That's something you can keep in mind. Then they place their imagery on the inside. They have their colophon on the back here. 7 Things I Adore by Cindy Song. Illustrations are printed in watercolor and markers, and they are printed in photo glossy papers. Interpapers are BFK Reeves and Strathmore. Anyhow, 2016. Here's the back of her book with her 5-hole pamphlet stitch. Okay, so what I've done, I've pre-cut everything. You're going to get this handout, which I've drawn everything, the measurements out. You can do it differently. There's your hot dog. We've talked about hot dogs before. Now let's say you want to decorate this. You could just go ahead and cut it. It's 21.5 by 8.5 inches high, and I've done all the measurements for you. What you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler after you measure everything out, and you're going to score it. I've done that. Score it against your metal ruler. Just, paper has a memory, and that's going to help fold it. But let's say I wanted to decorate it. I would, I wouldn't have all this writing on my good copy. You're going to make a mock-up out of inexpensive paper. This is Canson paper. But let's say this was my good paper. I would start drawing on it flat. Same with this is my what I chose for one of my inside pages, because I'm going to show you how to do the pamphlet stitch on the mountain fold. Before I would sew everything together, I would probably lightly with pencil put page number 1 and through 7, so I know the order I'm doing it in. And I would start drawing before I would score. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and fold it. You've seen it. And this is my glue edge. when you look at this, there's a glue edge under this cover. That's what this is. That goes there. So I can see, this is, I've written mountain fold. This is my first mountain fold. And this is my glue edge. Okay? And this is my valley fold. So see, glue edge, mountain fold, valley fold. And then I'm going to go all the way to the end, and this is my other glue tab that goes under here in the back of the book. Okay? So right now I'm just going to fold it. And because I've scored it, it has a pretty good memory. I just go back and forth. And then I kind of like to take my bone folder and get in there and crisp it up. Now I'm kind of doing it in a hurried manner because I'm on film and I don't want to bore you. You know, if I was doing it by myself, I'd probably be a little slower. Okay, so there I have it. And then this page is 14 by 8.5. It's the same size as my mock-up. But I need to use my hot dog. And I put the word top at the top of my hot dog, so I always know to place it in my pages. You know, I'm not going like that. I want to have it always in the same direction. Now this hot dog is a little different. I have it measured out in the handout here. It's 3 inches wide and 8.5 inches tall. I have folded it in half perfectly, and I folded in a half this way, but it's going to be a little different. I'm not going to fold this to that and get a crease because I want the holes to be different. So it's 1 1/8, and then 2 2/8, and then it has a wider gap here. So that you'll see that, and I've already folded it. So I want to place it. I'm going to sew on the mountain. I'll show you again. See, this is the mountain. I'm going to sew my pamphlet stitch there. So I have to put all my holes on these mountains. I'm only going to do one for you. So I'm going to turn it over. I have to get my awl. Now, you know, I have this huge cradle. But let's say I didn't have a cradle. I could carefully prick this just with my hand, holding it. Okay. I prick it from behind. Then I'm going to take my needle and I'm just going to go through those holes again and wiggle my needle just so I can see them better. Now, I pricked that from behind with the word top being at the top. I also have to prick this so it fits. So I'm going to go back in here. same thing. Just go through my holes with my needle. Okay. All right, so we have used our hot dog and we have put our 5 pamphlet holes, stitch holes in there, and we've done the same on the mountain. I wanted to say something about thread. For this, you're going to want about 3 lengths of thread. 1, 2, 3, and I always do a little extra for good measure. So you're not going to run out of thread, and you would have to do that for each mountain you're going to do. I wouldn't start out with a huge, thread, just 3 lengths of the height. Now for the pamphlet stitch, you do have your pamphlet stitch handout here. This is not a 3-hole, it's a 5-hole. And you start from the back, the center. So I go through the center of my mountain fold and my page, and I pull it through, always leaving a bit of a tail in the back, because that's where I'm going to end up tying it. Then I wrote hole 2 up here, so I know to go up there. This is my mock-up, so I can mark it up and work out all the problems. So I go through 2, then I come through 3. Hole 3 is at the top. And then I'm going to go back through 2. So I still have my tail. Now I'm going to go all the way down to hole 4, is what I call hole 4, and go through the back of my page. Then I'm going to go down to hole 5. In the back now, I'm going to go back up to hole 4 from behind and go through it. See that? And now I'm going to go back through hole 1, through my page and through my mountain fold. And I'm going to end up on the back. Now here, I want to make sure, I'm going to back that needle out just a little because I want the needle to go on the other side of my thread. See? I'm going to get my scissors. I'm just going to cut my thread, and I'm going to do a square stitch. I don't want that much of a tail. That looks pretty good to me. And so that has completed one page. For my book. Okay, with more to come. Okay, that's that. Now I'm going to stop and I'm going to teach you how to glue a piece of paper to 2-ply museum board. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do the cover of the book. I did not use bookboard. I used this white 2-ply museum board. You can use bookboard. Sometimes I prefer this, it's less heavy, it's archival. So this, again, you keep in mind, this is my mock-up. I wrote front cover, back cover. I wrote 8.5 inches tall, 8 5/8 width. I want to have roughly about 1 inch around it. So I place my board there and I, put my pencil all the way around. So if I lift it up, I can still see where it's going to be. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the corners like I've taught you before. I have my 2 bookboard widths with me. I'm going to set it up like that. I could put a pencil there so I can see my markings. This is so I don't, it assures me that I will not get too close to the corners, because I don't want my book board or my 2-ply museum board to show. Then I go back in and I cut the diagonal at all 4 corners. Where I made my mark. Okay, now I'm going to glue. So I want to put some newsprint down with my paper. And I'm going to show you how to use the PVA glue, which is in this jar. I poured some in there with a little bit of water. When you have a larger area, the PVA glue can dry pretty quickly. So the larger the area, I want to put a little water in there. Now I could have used double tack for this, which would be fine, but I want you to know the traditional PVA glue with a little bit of water. Okay, I'm gonna, I can do it 2 ways. I can get on the back of this and put my glue on here. I try to work pretty quick. Now you would always protect your tabletop. Being generous. Making sure I'm going back and forth, making sure I got everything. And then I would quickly, since I have my pencil lines, I can see roughly where my shape is for my book. I'm not going out to the end yet. I want to first place my book on here. Okay, I'm going to flip this around and carefully put it where my pencil marks are. I'm going to press down. I have some wiggle where like I could slide it. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my edges. I kind of want to lift this off and fold this in half so I don't have any glue that can get on my pretty paper. Now I'm going to take my bone folder, and remember, no matter what you're using, I'm going to fold this top over. I'll do the bottom. Now the trickiest part, remember, are the corners. I'm going to come in from the side. See that? I'm going to do the other side. It's not like wrapping a present, because your corners would be too bulky if you just folded it over that way. And sometimes what I do is I stand it up like that, and that helps me fold it over. Let me get this side now. Okay, now it is curving a little bit, but keep in mind, I will be gluing this tab in, and eventually I will have a inside sheet to glue. See, this would go over here, leaving like a 1/4 inch on the edge, but right up to that mountain, and cover the glue tab. And once I put the glue on this side, the board is going to rest and dry flat.